In our cozy little home, life often felt like a well-orchestrated symphony, each day flowing into the next with a comforting regularity. I'm Eliza, a dedicated dentist whose life revolves around caring for others, both in my clinic and at home. My husband, Tom, a man whose past life had etched lines of worry and contemplation on his face, was often my partner in quiet evenings spent discussing everything and nothing. This particular evening, however, held a different tune. As I entered our home, the aroma of simmering stew greeted me, a sign of Tom's attempt to provide some culinary comfort. I found him in the kitchen, looking more troubled than usual. "Hey love, what's cooking?" I asked, trying to inject some lightness into the heavy air. Tom glanced up, managing a weak smile. "Just some stew." "Eliza, we need to talk about something important." "It's about Alex." Alex, Tom's son from his previous marriage, lived with his mother in a different city. Our interactions were limited to brief, somewhat formal exchanges on Skype, his shy demeanor never allowing me to know him beyond the basic pleasantries. "What about Alex? Is he okay?" I queried, concern lacing my voice as I took a seat at the kitchen table. Tom joined me, his hands clasped together, the weight of his words gathering like storm clouds. "He's fine, health-wise. But he's been given a chance to follow his dream of forming a band. He's really passionate about it, Eliza. But, well, he needs our financial help." I leaned in, listening intently. "How much does he need?" I asked, my mind already sifting through our finances. Tom hesitated, then uttered, "Around $10,000. It's for the equipment, some studio time, things like that." I took a deep breath, the number settling in my mind. "That's a significant amount, Tom. But if it's for his dream, tell me, have you seen any of his work? Is he serious about this path?" He nodded vigorously. "I've heard some of his music during our calls. He spends every spare moment he has on it. I believe in him, Eliza." I watched the earnest look in his eyes, a father's love mingling with hope. "All right, Tom. If you believe this is right, I trust your judgment. Let's support Alex. But, let's also ensure it's a wise decision. We should probably have a chat with him, understand his plan a little better." Tom's face lit up with a mixture of relief and gratitude. "Thank you, Eliza. This means the world to him, and to me. And yes, let's arrange a call with him soon." As we sat there planning our next steps, I couldn't help but feel a mixture of excitement and apprehension. I was about to invest in a dream, in a young man I barely knew, hoping that our contribution would set him on a path to success and fulfillment. It was a risk, but perhaps, in the grand scheme of things, a risk worth taking for family. Months slipped by after the first financial aid for Tom's son, Alex. Life resumed its usual pace with my dental practice bustling and Tom's work steady. Then one evening, as autumn leaves began to paint the ground in hues of amber and gold, Tom approached me with a familiar hesitancy in his eyes. "Eliza, can we talk about something?" he asked, his voice carrying an edge of discomfort. I nodded, setting aside the book I was reading. "Of course, what's on your mind?" He took a deep breath, his gaze avoiding mine. "It's about Alex again. He's making great progress with his music, really diving into it. But he needs more support, another $10,000. I felt a twinge of surprise, my eyebrows knitting together in concern. "Another $10,000? But we just provided for his initial setup. What does he need this time?" Tom's fingers fidgeted with the hem of his shirt. "He's looking to upgrade some equipment, maybe get into a better studio. It's just that, things are getting more serious for him now." I sighed, a sense of unease settling in. "Tom, I understand wanting to support Alex, but we need to be mindful. We're talking about a lot of money here. I earn well, but these are hard-earned savings. We need to think about our future too." Tom's face turned a shade darker, his voice raising slightly. "But it's for Alex, Eliza. My son. Don't you think he deserves this chance?" His tone stung, a hint of accusation lingering in the air. Of course, I do, I replied, my voice firm yet calm. But I also believe in responsible support. We can't just keep handing out money without understanding the full picture. The conversation grew heated, our words a volley of concern and frustration. Then, suddenly, Tom's demeanor shifted from defensive to outright angry. You just don't understand, Eliza. You're not a parent. You don't know what it's like to want to give everything to your child. His words cut deep, echoing around the room. I recoiled, hurt flashing in my eyes. Tom, that's unfair. I've been nothing but supportive. But we can't be reckless. And your son is almost an adult, he needs to learn financial responsibility too. Tom shook his head, his anger boiling over. You're just being selfish and greedy, Eliza. You don't understand what family means. With that, he stormed out of the house, leaving me in a stunned silence. His accusations felt like a slap, the word greedy reverberating in my mind. I sat there, trying to piece together the fragments of our conversation, the harmony of our life now disturbed by a growing discord. Days turned into a week, and Tom's absence stretched on. I was left to ponder the situation alone, my concern for Alex's future wrestling with my dismay at Tom's reaction. When Tom finally returned, his demeanor had softened, but the underlying issue remained unresolved. I'm sorry, Eliza, he said, his voice low. I shouldn't have exploded like that. It's just, I want to do right by Alex. I nodded, accepting his apology but feeling the distance between us. I understand, Tom. But we need to be a team in this, especially when it comes to big decisions. Reluctantly, I agreed to the additional support for Alex, my heart heavy with apprehension. Tom's immediate switch back to his affectionate self was a relief, but also a reminder of the fragile balance we were treading. The cycle of financial requests for Tom's son had become a recurring theme, straining not just our bank account, but also the very fabric of our relationship. Just as the leaves began to shift to the fiery colors of fall, Tom approached me again, his demeanor more desperate than before. Eliza, we need to talk about Alex again, he began, avoiding my gaze. I set down my book, a sense of dread filling the air. What is it this time, Tom? He fidgeted, clearly uncomfortable. It's a big opportunity for him, a chance to go on a tour with his band. He needs our help, Eliza. He needs $30,000. I was taken aback, the figure echoing in my mind like a bad joke. 30,000? Tom, this is getting out of hand. We've been supportive, but this is too much. Tom's face flushed with frustration. But it's for his future, Eliza. Can't you see? He could make it big. I stood up, feeling the tension like a physical force between us. And I want to support him, but not blindly. We've never even seen him play. We don't know if this band is real or just a whim. We need some kind of proof, Tom. His voice raised, a note of panic creeping in. Why can't you just trust me, Eliza? Why do you need proof for everything? I replied, my own voice rising in response. Because trust is based on honesty and responsibility, Tom. And right now, I'm not seeing a lot of either. The room was thick with unsaid words and mounting frustrations. Tom then dropped a bombshell that shattered any semblance of normalcy. If you don't give this money for Alex, I don't think I can stay in this marriage. I felt as if the floor had fallen out beneath me. Are you blackmailing me, Tom? Using our marriage as a bargaining chip for money? He didn't answer, his silence speaking volumes. I realized then that our issues ran deeper than I had ever imagined. This was about more than money, it was about respect, trust, and the balance of power in our relationship. I need time to think, I said finally, my voice hollow. This isn't something I can decide right now. Tom stormed out, leaving me alone with my swirling thoughts. I knew something had to change. We couldn't continue down this path of ultimatums and financial demands. That night, as I lay in bed, the space beside me cold and empty, I realized that I was at a crossroads. One path led to giving in to Tom's demands, sacrificing my principles and possibly my financial security. The other was fraught with the unknown, potentially leading to the end of my marriage. In the quiet of our home, I sat down with my laptop, a sense of unease stirring within me as I navigated to Alex's Instagram page. The images that greeted me were far from what I expected of a struggling musician. Lavish parties, designer clothes, exotic locations, it all painted a picture of luxury that belied the story we'd been told. I needed answers directly from Alex. I called him on Skype, ensuring the video recording was on, ready to confront him about the inconsistencies. He answered, his face a mask of casual indifference. "Alex, we need to talk about the money your dad and I have been sending you," I began, my tone firm. He shrugged nonchalantly. "What about it?" I didn't mince words. "I've seen your Instagram. Your lifestyle doesn't match up with needing money for a band. I'm not sending any more money." His face changed then, the cool facade slipping into something darker. "You have no idea who you're dealing with. I have connections, people that can make life very unpleasant for you." I felt a chill at his threat, but I didn't waver. "Alex, I've been recording this conversation. Threatening me is a serious offense. I can take this to the police." The bravado drained from his face, leaving behind a pale, frightened boy. Tears welled up in his eyes as he realized the gravity of his actions. "Please, no. I was just talking big. I'm not in any gang. I don't want any trouble with the police." His sudden shift from intimidation to desperation made me pause. He was on the verge of revealing something more, something that might explain the bizarre turn of events. Sitting back, I watched Alex's face, tear-streaked and pale, as he prepared to spill the secrets he'd been holding onto. "All right, Alex, let's hear it then. What's going on?" Through sobs, Alex began to unravel the web of lies. "It started off small, just me wanting some extra cash. But then I found something about Dad." I leaned forward, my heart pounding. "What did you find about your dad, Alex?" He wiped his eyes, taking a shaky breath. "I found out he was seeing someone, not just anyone, someone from his past. I took pictures, threatened to tell you unless he kept sending money." My world spun with his confession. "Tom has been unfaithful? And you've been blackmailing him?" Alex nodded miserably. "Yes. I never meant for it to get this far. I wanted to live a certain way, and when I found out about Dad, it seemed like an easy way to keep the money coming." I felt a mix of anger and pity. "Alex, do you realize how serious this is? Blackmail is a crime. And your father, how could he?" He sniffled, looking down. I know it's messed up. I don't know, I got in too deep. But I swear, Eliza, I don't want to cause any more trouble. I'll stop. I'll figure something else out." I sighed, the weight of the situation heavy on my shoulders. "And the band, the tours, all of that was just a lie?" He nodded again. "Yeah. I'm sorry. I like music, sure, but there was no band. I just needed a story for the money." I sat back, processing everything. My husband had been unfaithful, my stepson a blackmailer. The foundation of my family was cracked and broken. "Alex, I need to talk to your father about this. And you need to sort yourself out. This isn't the way to go through life." He nodded, a small glimmer of understanding in his eyes. "I know. I'm sorry, Eliza. Really." As the call ended, I was left in a silent house, the echo of Alex's confessions ringing in my ears. The lies were unraveling, revealing a painful truth I could no longer ignore. I knew the next step was confronting Tom, but a part of me dreaded what that confrontation would bring. The man I had built a life with was a stranger, and our marriage a facade. I needed to gather my strength, for the conversation ahead would be the most challenging of my life. The house felt unbearably quiet as I waited for Tom to return. The ticking of the clock seemed to echo my racing heart, each minute stretching longer than the last. When I finally heard the turn of the key in the lock, my stomach knotted with anxiety. Tom entered, immediately sensing the storm brewing in the air. "Eliza, what's wrong? You look like you're about to explode." I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "Tom, we need to talk. Now." He hesitated, then nodded, taking a seat across from me. "What's it about?" I didn't beat around the bush. "It's about Alex, Tom. And it's about you. I know everything, the blackmail, the affair." Alex confessed. Tom's face paled, his eyes widening in shock. What? "Eliza, I can explain." I felt a surge of anger. "Explain? How can you possibly explain lying to me, allowing your son to blackmail you, and using our money to cover up your affair?" He looked down, shame etched across his face. "I was afraid, Eliza. Afraid of losing you. I thought I could control the situation, but it spiraled out of control." I shook my head, my voice rising. "Control? You call this control? You've been living a double life, Tom. And all the while, lying to my face." Tom's voice broke. "I'm sorry, Eliza. I never meant for any of this to happen. I didn't know how to handle it." I stood up, my hands trembling with a mixture of fury and heartbreak. "Sorry doesn't cut it, Tom. Your son was threatening me, using gang connections to intimidate me because of your mistakes." Tom stood as well, reaching out to me. "Please, Eliza, let's try to work this out. I'll do anything." I pushed his hand away. "Work this out? How can I possibly trust you again? How can we go back to how things were knowing what I know now?" He had no answer, just stood there, a man broken by his own deceit. I knew then that our marriage was beyond repair. The trust that once bound us together had been shattered by lies and blackmail. "Tom, I need you to leave," I said, my voice cold and final. He didn't argue, just nodded silently and walked out, the door closing with a soft click that seemed to echo the closing chapter of our life together. As I sat back down, alone in the echoing silence of our home, I felt a profound sense of loss and betrayal. But amidst the pain, there was also a flicker of relief. The truth was out, painful as it was, and now I could begin to heal, to rebuild my life on a foundation of honesty and self-respect. In the aftermath of our confrontation, the house felt empty, the silence a constant reminder of the betrayal and deceit that had unfolded. I knew I couldn't just let things end there. There needed to be consequences for the lies and the financial manipulation. It was time for a legal reckoning. I found myself sitting across from a lawyer, my hands clenched tightly in my lap. "Mrs. Johnson, I've gone through all the information you provided," he began, his tone professional yet sympathetic. "I need to pursue legal action," I stated firmly. "Not just for the divorce, but for the recovery of the money Tom used for his blackmail payments, and for the emotional distress this has caused me." The lawyer nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "We can certainly file for divorce on grounds of infidelity and emotional distress. As for the money, we'll need all the evidence you have of the transactions and any communication between you and your husband or stepson regarding this matter." I assured him I had kept meticulous records. I trusted Tom completely. "Never thought I'd need these as evidence against him," I admitted, a sad irony in my voice. He offered a small, reassuring smile. "You're doing the right thing by protecting yourself and your assets. This won't be easy, but I'll be with you every step of the way." The following weeks were a blur of legal documents, meetings, and court appearances. Tom looked defeated each time our paths crossed, the reality of his actions finally hitting home. At one such encounter, he approached me, his expression one of regret. "Eliza, I never wanted it to come to this. I'm sorry." I looked at him, the man I once loved, now a stranger. "Sorry isn't enough, Tom. You made your choices, and now we're both living with the consequences. The final court session was the hardest. I sat there, listening as my lawyer laid out the case, detailing the emotional and financial toll of Tom's deceit. When the judge finally spoke, granting me the divorce along with compensation for the misused funds and emotional suffering, I felt a bittersweet relief. As I walked out of the courtroom, the weight of the past months felt both heavier and lighter. I had stood up for myself, faced the legal battle, and emerged with a sense of closure, albeit a painful one. But the journey wasn't over. There were still pieces of my life to pick up, a future to rebuild. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but as I stepped out into the sunlight, I felt a glimmer of hope. I decided to visit my old friend and confidant, Martha, who had been a pillar of support through my ordeal. As I entered her cozy living room, she greeted me with a warm, knowing smile. "Eliza, look at you. How are you holding up?" she asked, ushering me to sit. I sighed, a small smile playing on my lips. "I'm okay, Martha. It's been tough, but I feel like I'm finally seeing the light at the end of this long, dark tunnel." Martha patted my hand gently. "You've been through so much, my dear. But you handled it with such grace and strength. I'm proud of you." I nodded, feeling a sense of pride myself. It was hard, Martha, facing Tom in court, unraveling all the lies. But I stood up for myself. And now, it's time for a new beginning. Martha's eyes twinkled with encouragement. "So, what's next for Eliza Johnson?" I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the question. "First, I think I need some time to heal, to rediscover who I am outside of this whole mess. Then, I want to focus on my work, maybe even take a vacation, something I haven't done in years." "Sounds like a plan," Martha replied warmly. "And remember, Eliza, this is your chance to rewrite your story, on your own terms." Her words resonated within me. Yes, I had been through a storm, but now I had the opportunity to chart my own course. In the following weeks, I immersed myself in work and self-care. I took up yoga, started reading more, and even planned a solo trip to a place I'd always wanted to visit. Life without Tom was different, but it was mine to shape. One evening, as I was preparing for my trip, the doorbell rang. It was Alex. He stood there, looking nervous and remorseful. "Eliza, I just wanted to say I'm sorry, face to face. For everything," he stammered. I regarded him, seeing not the aggressive young man from our Skype call, but a remorseful, lost boy. "Thank you, Alex. I hope you've learned from this, and that you're making changes for the better." He nodded earnestly. "I am. And I owe it to you for standing up to me. You helped me see how wrong I was." I smiled slightly, acknowledging his apology. "Take care of yourself, Alex. And make good choices, okay?" As he walked away, I closed the door and turned back to my own path, feeling a sense of closure. The journey had been arduous, but I emerged stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever lay ahead. The sun set in a blaze of glory, its vibrant hues a promise of the new chapter awaiting me. A chapter of healing, growth, and self-discovery. A new horizon was before me, and I stepped forward with determination and hope, ready to embrace whatever the future held.